Take the police one off and put the fire one in front of Jason? Or however that's gonna work?
What about the finance? Is that back there? I can put it up, Daryl. You can tell me where it is.
Good afternoon. This is the Legal Finance Committee meeting for September 27th, 2003. And we'd like to begin, 23, we'd like to begin with the roll call and determination of quorum.
Beaverdorf.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Maher.
Here.
Seacrest.
Here.
Stroman.
Here. Next item is adoption of the agenda.
Move to approve?
Second.
Move to approve by Evans, second by Seacrest. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to move on to general public comment, and I have a few speaker request forms. For those that have indicated general public comment, I will call you up, and then if you've listed a specific item, I'll call you up when we get to that item. So the first one would be Jennifer Utter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Utter from the City Attorney's Office. Guten Tag. I am the coordinator for the Apolda Sister City visit this year. They have been here since Saturday night. They will be here until Monday. And this is a very special relationship and a fun and familial relationship that we have with our sister city. We have representatives from the fire department, from the police department, from the water department, payroll, HR, from parks, and also some citizens, and then a city hall worker. And we are touring. Today is our city day. We are very honored to be here. And perhaps their department director, Sabina Fries, may speak next and just give you a welcome. We do have an interpreter here, and she can maybe in English or maybe in German. If I could yield some of my time
Certainly.
to her.
And if you want to speak a welcome on behalf of the committee in German, you can do that. I don't speak German, so.
Our translator, welcome. Und Sabine? Here. Yeah.
Mein Name ist Sabine Fröse und ich sende ganz herzliche Grüße aus der Partnerstadt Apolda.
My name is Sabine Fröse and I send...
Take this.
My name is Sabine Fröse and I send special heartfelt greetings from the city of Apolda.
Der Bürgermeister von Apolda, Rüdiger Eisenbrand, sendet herzliche Grüße und wir haben nächstes Jahr das 30-jährige Jubiläum unserer Partnerstadt.
The mayor...
Und, ja.
Yeah, the Holger Eisenberger, ne?
Rüdiger Eisenbrand.
Rüdiger. Oh my gosh. So the mayor Rüdiger Eisenberger sends his heartfelt greetings to you all. And next year they have a special anniversary, the 30th anniversary of the sister city in Apolda. And in this endeavor, he is sending his regards and...
Wir möchten uns bedanken für die Einladung und dafür, dass wir hier sein können. Wir haben viele neue Freunde kennengelernt und alte Freunde getroffen. Und es ist eine sehr schöne Zeit und es wurde sehr gutes Wetter organisiert.
Well, I'll start from the back. Great weather was organized for this event and our visit, which we enjoy very much. We enjoy your hospitality and how welcome we were. We were eager to reconnect with some old friends and made new friends, and we have been having a very good time.
Ist okay?
Vielen Dank für Ihre Gastfreundschaft. Thank you for your hospitality and your warm welcome to the city of Rapid City, which is unique and beautiful.
Und ich hoffe, den einen oder anderen in Apolda zu treffen.
And in the spirit of the next year's anniversary, the 30th, once again, to underscore that is a very, very special occasion and meaningful for the city of Apolda. We do hope that to see you all, or most of you, and certainly the mayor, on behalf of the mayor of Apolda, we extend our heartfelt invitation to see hopefully all of you for this special occasion and celebration together with our sister city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from council? Next item of public comment will be from Laura Jones.
Good afternoon, Laura Jones, Elevate Rapid City. I am speaking in support of the item number 13, the comprehensive plan agreement with Logan Simpson. The comprehensive plan is a keystone community and economic development document for cities. It helps the community outline goals and develop strategies to accommodate for future growth. It also helps economic development organizations like Elevate set targets for business retention and attraction, and offers a cooperative path forward for strengthening the economy and setting priorities for growth. The proposal from Logan Simpson offers a unique opportunity to include arts and culture as we plan for the future and develop strategies through the lens of resiliency, while covering the traditional comprehensive plan topics of land use planning, zoning, and community development. With experience working in communities with similar challenges and opportunities, their proposal offers an invaluable opportunity to garner an outside perspective while also considering the voices of the Rapid City community. Elevate looks forward to participating in the development of the plan. Thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you. That's all for general public comment, although I see that, Laura, you did indicate you were here on number 13. And we have one other speaker request form on number 13. And Brooke, if you'd like to go now rather than wait till 13, or you can hang around and do both, either one. Okay. So this is Brooke Kaufman for item 13.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Usually I'm here in front of you as Visit Rapid City, but today I'm here with my planning and zoning commission hat on. So several months ago, the Community Development Department reached out and gave me the opportunity to review the proposals for the cities for an update to the city comprehensive plan. The last time the plan was updated was 2014. So I think we can agree a lot has changed in that 10 years. As of the 2020 census, the city's population has grown 10%. Many of you know, all of you know, the Wall Street Journal named us the fastest growing city in the Midwest 2 years in a row. In-migration has resulted in challenges for housing affordability and infrastructure, and the growth also puts pressure on our city's infrastructure systems and services. So I had the planning department pull some numbers just so I could share these with you this afternoon. So far, year to date, we've issued 211 single-family unit permits, 805 multifamily units permits have been issued. And as somebody who sits on the Planning and Zoning Commission, we've had 18 requests for zone changes this year to date, which are all things that would be addressed in this plan. So I know the city has many competing priorities. We watched you on YouTube many days every week, and you have to decide how to allocate the funds. But in this case, I can't help but wonder what it will cost if we don't plan for the growth and the future of our great city. So I'm just here today to show my support of the Logan Simpson plan, and I will stay around for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this time?
We'll comment when we get there, I suppose.
Okay. Then I'm going to, no more speaker request forms so I'm going to close general public comment and move to consent items 1 through 13. And I guess the first one, item number 1, is to approve minutes of the September 13th meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Evans, second by Seacrest. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And so then we'll go to the Finance Department for items 2 through 9. Mr. Ainsley, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The first item, number 2, is to acknowledge the July 23 General Fund cash balance reports. The undesignated cash total as of the end of July was $9.3 million. I do want to remind the council that your 2024 budget is making use of approximately $5.56 million of that 9.3. And then moving on to number 3, acknowledge of the, and I'm sorry, it should say July 2023 sales tax report. I apologize that I included June, but it's actually for July. I am happy to note that in the 2% general sales tax category, month over month, we are up 3.4% compared to July of 2022. For the year, we are trending 2.4% higher than 2022, and versus budget, we are up 3.7% higher than we had budgeted. In the BBB, or the tourism tax, we had a tremendous July. Month versus month, we are up 9.1%. Year over year, we are up 4.6%. Compared to budget, we are almost at budget. We're actually just 0.5% lower than we had budgeted in the BBB funds. The next 2 items, number 4 and 5, are actually very similar, and I have sent a longer email to the council, I believe about a week or week and a half ago, that tried to explain that. In order to be brief here, unless there are further questions, I just want to point out that the Healthcare Committee has been meeting for probably 5 or 6 months trying to come up with a way forward to ensure that our healthcare fund would remain at a stable position. Essentially, the City of Rapid City is a self-funded healthcare system, so we do have an agreement that it is administered through Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we are able to use their negotiated rates, and they provide us some of the expertise, guidance, but essentially whenever one of our employees goes to the doctor, that bill is then sent to the City of Rapid City and paid out of that fund. We do that because the total costs compared to a more traditional fund are at least 20% lower. So it is a good savings for the taxpayer as well as for the employees. Unfortunately, the attachment shows that the cost of healthcare has continued to increase, and we have not maintained premium increases at the rate necessary to break even in that fund, and so the fund reserve has continued to fall. Over the past several years, there have been plan design changes as well as premium increases that have made that closer to a line, so that this year we're actually looking for the first time in several years at hopefully breaking almost even compared to where we had started. And so what is being proposed in item number 4 here is that we would institute a new recovery fee that would be every single employee would be contributing $25 every paycheck on top of their regular premiums, and that would be matched by the city. And the point of that fee is just to elevate our fund balance so that we can hopefully get it up to that $4 million level, which is anticipated to be approximately 40% of the cost of that. So number 5 is actually approving the MOUs with all 3 of our bargaining units. They have voted to adopt those MOUs, and I really want to provide a significant amount of credit to our unions and the presidents of those unions. They really stepped up during these negotiations, and they voluntarily agreed to this. Again, the city was not able to compel the unions to this, but I think they were stepping forward in a spirit of cooperation with the city to try to resolve this situation. And I also want to thank our city attorney, who in a very quick fashion, got these MOUs turned around, and so that the unions were able to vote on that, and also to Leah and the entire HR team who, for the last several months, has been instrumental in negotiating these agreements. So unless there are further questions, that's kind of the overview for items 4 and 5. In item number 6, there is a proposed $14,000 increase that would be provided to behavior management systems. That is paid for out of our CDBG fund, which those are federal dollars. And we do have Michelle in the audience if there are additional questions in regards to that. Number 7 is to authorize the application and approve an award through the South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. It is a $100,000 grant. Unlike most grants, there are no matching funds that are required for this. The funds would be used to remove dead and dying trees from public rights-of-ways, and also to plant 2 new trees for every tree that would be removed. We also have Jamie here, I think, who would be able to answer any additional questions. Yes, she is here. To answer any additional questions if you might have. And then number 8 is a professional service agreement with Sustainability Solutions Group for professional services for the city's pollution reduction planning grant. That total investment is $250,000 for them to provide us technical expertise and assistance as we come up with our greenhouse gas inventory, as well as our priority action plan over the next several years. This is 100% grant funded, so no local funds are being used for that. And also I want to make sure everyone is aware that the action plans that are created from that will be going forward through different city groups and be ultimately presented to the city council. And so you will definitely have opportunities to provide input and to ultimately approve that. And then lastly, number 9 is also with our CDBG program. This is a collaboration with the police department, parks, and finance, our CDBG team. This is a contract for $378,930 to plan a new park in the Knollwood area. And what's significant about this park, in addition to traditional park features, there's going to be significant enhanced security equipment, including cameras and lighting, in order to hopefully provide a safe environment for the local residents there to be able to enjoy the outdoor environment. And so that $378,930 is being funded through CDBG or federal grant funds. Are there any questions?
See if anyone has any items that they want to pull for further discussion at this time, rather than going through the whole agenda. Okay, so we'll go to Kevin Maher.
Daniel, thank you. I'm going back to number 4 on the healthcare fund recovery fee. I thought the explanation that you sent us was very thorough, and I thank the committee. It's obviously worked very hard to come up with that solution. My question was, and I think you did answer it when you were giving the overview, it said there's going to be a $25 per pay period fee, recovery fee for all employees. So that would be even the employee today that gets health care for themselves, maybe they're single, but they're not paying a premium. So they're going to pay the $25?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Anybody want to pull any other items for discussion? I just want to say one thing about 4 and 5, and I appreciate what Daniel and the directors and the employees and the city attorney's office, everybody that worked on this. This was a really big issue that we had to deal with, and I think that they've worked through it and come up with a very acceptable solution for everybody. So I just commend you, Daniel, and your group for the healthcare employee group. And so that doesn't show up on there. Okay. But I just appreciate your work on that, because I think it's important for what we have to do here with the city. So, and I guess I'll go to Bill Evans.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mr. Ainsley for the clarity with which all of these are presented, and also to frankly congratulate the people that have gone after these grants and received this money, because this is the kind of thing we're going to end up paying for eventually out of our own pocket if we don't take money that is available to us, paid for by sources, so your taxes have already paid for at some point in your life. And I think this is great. The Knollwood Drainage Development one in particular, I love the way that's working out, because that's going to really take an area that is perhaps a higher crime area than many in the city and solve a lot of problems there. So I just want to just say thank you for doing all these. The tree fund is a great one. Obviously, the greenhouse gas plan is something that's going to be mandated sooner or later. We might as well have our plan in place. So to have these paid for with federal funds that aren't coming out of our local taxpayers' pocket exclusively as a smart idea, and we need to continue to do that. So thank you for those who've written the grants and gotten them approved. And I'm going to move to approve everything 2 through 9. If I get a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Evans and a second by Bieberdorf to approve items 2 through 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're going on to number 10, and Fire Chief Culberson.
Thank you, Chair. This is a authorization to apply and accept, if awarded, our South Dakota Community Health Care Worker Grant from the South Dakota Department of Health for $50,000. This will be the third year that we've had this grant. And nice about it is there's no strings attached and no matching, so we're able to use it to continue the work of our community health workers who fall underneath our mobile medic program. Been doing some fantastic work, and we're getting some data information coming, so we'll do a presentation here in the next few months about the mobile medic program and the impact they have had on our community. But this is simply just to apply for a grant that the Department of Health has asked us to receive the money. So,
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion?
Second.
Motion to approve by Bieberdorf, second by Evans. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move on now to community development for items 11 through 13. Director Fisher, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 11 is a request authorizing the mayor and finance director to sign a memorandum of understanding. This is for a fee that will be assessed to Pennington County for their use of our Central Square Track-It database program. This is a program that we brought on board that assists us with tracking our permits, whether it be building permits, air quality permits, floodplain permits, et cetera. And in reaching out to the county last year, they concurred that they should pay their fair share. So in doing so, it puts 24% of that overall expenditure for them. The county has already approved this a memorandum of understanding, and we're asking for your support as well. Item number 12 is another request authorizing the mayor and finance officer to sign what we refer to as the pass-through agreement. This is the grant money that comes from South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural and Agriculture regarding our air quality program. It's in the amount of $60,000. It pays for a significant part of the duties we perform for air quality within the city and in a portion of the county. We took it to our air quality board yesterday. They have agreed to the agreement, and it is actually, that agreement's been signed. If you have any questions about that, Kelly Brennan is in the audience and can give you more information. We are requesting your approval on that authorization request. And then lastly, you heard from two speakers earlier regarding our request on number 13. And this is again authorizing the mayor and finance officer to enter into an agreement to secure a contract with Logan Simpson for the update of the city's comprehensive plan. When we brought the request for proposal forward several months ago, we had some great conversation about the importance of putting this to an outside consultant in order to secure the overall data needed because of the great economic tool this is, not only for the city, but for the community. It's one of the rare studies that we do that touches every aspect of our land use, our infrastructure, and the users of that marketing that then can be implemented towards growth in our city in the right direction. We appreciate the support then, and putting forward that RFP, we had 3 great selections to look at. Those got scored. I believe many of you were involved in that process as well. And with your permission, Mr. Chair, I would like to turn this over to Sarah Hansel, who's put a lot of energy into this and can give you more information on what their proposal entails.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Ms. Hansel?
Thank you. Sarah Hansel with the Planning Projects Division. We're excited to bring this item forward to you today and are requesting your approval of this agreement with Logan Simpson. The contract amount is for an amount not to exceed $288,150. And as the staff group, we were really elated to find out that their bid, which was a sealed bid, actually was under the amount that we had budgeted for this project. So that was kind of a good sign, and we're happy about that. It's also important to point out that portions of this project, potentially substantial portions, 40%, potentially 50%, will be reimbursed by the South Dakota Department of Transportation because of the amount of transportation-related costs associated with this as well. So that's an important thing to know about the fiscal impact to the city of this project. So we released the RFP in July. As Director Fisher noted, we received 3 proposals, and of those who reviewed the proposals, this particular one really stood out among those who took a look at it. The reviewing group included city staff from planning and public works, but also community members, folks from Elevate Rapid City, Visit Rapid City, and our planning commissioners as well, and the Arts Council. And what the reviewers noted was that this company really took note of who we are as a community, and they made that clear in their proposal. They noted that we're one of the fastest growing communities in the Midwest. They're aware of our B21 mission. They themselves are a company that's based out of the Mountain West. They're from Fort Collins. So they know the Mountain West, they know the culture here and the values, and they work in a lot of Midwest and West communities. So we kind of got a strong sense from them in talking with them and in reviewing their proposals. This group also produces very compelling and inspiring graphics, which we think will help bring our community vision to life and be a really important communication tool for how we think about our future as a community and gain support for what we want to achieve collectively. You know, the power of a plan is that it can inspire change, and it's about the process as much as it's about the document itself, and we're really confident that Logan Simpson can help us meet our future goals. The proposal includes 15 tasks that will occur from January of 2024 to September of 2025. And a strong part of their component is about community engagement. So as planners, we're always asking ourselves, and the community is always asking of us, how can you do a better job of engaging with the community? It's hard work. People have busy lives. How do you get in touch with people who are busy with their work and their families and hear from them what they want for their future and their community and how we can meet their needs as citizens. So this is a list of all of the ways they're planning on doing that. It includes both kind of analog and digital tools and emerging technologies. So there will be study advisory team meetings, an arts contest, project website and branding suite, printed materials. They'd like to send postcards at the very front of the project to all businesses and residents in the community to say, everyone, the city is getting ready to work on this plan. Please follow us at this website. Please get involved. Here's how you can learn more. And that's a great way to start a project, just to kind of do that blanket notification. It's not high tech, but it can be very effective and relatively inexpensive. Pair that with some of the more technologically advanced initiatives that they're proposing, like the 3 priorities and choice urban labs, which are immersive projectable maps that help people use technology to integrate with land use in planning in a way that's very innovative. I've never seen anything like this before, and I'm really excited about the potential of using it in Rapid City. There's also some more traditional products like working sessions with the Planning Commission and the Council, board and commission summits, 3 days of one-on-one interviews, a speaker panel, a draft traveling exhibit, and the list goes on and on. They really knocked it out of the park when it comes to public engagement. I didn't mention online questionnaires and digital archives of the process, which are really important as well. But it's not just community engagement. We also need a team who brings a really robust analysis and strategy and who knows their stuff when it comes to the technicalities of having a successful and equitable community as well. So we're really excited that this team has expertise in evaluating data, doing growth projections, looking at land use, economic development, taking a look at our regulatory framework and graphic design, urban design. These are special skill sets that are not easily accessible on a day-to-day basis based on what staff is busy doing with our day-to-day projects. This brings a high level of efficiency to this project. These are all important components, and their team as a collective whole can deliver that for us. As was noted before, the last comprehensive plan was adopted in 2014, and as a staff group, we actually have made minor updates to this plan over the years. And in looking at the guidance from the 2014 plan, the recommendation was that we do a major update within 5 to 6 years. So since 10 years have gone by, as a staff group, we're really confident that now is the right time to do it. We feel we've gotten a lot of mileage out of the current plan, and we're proud of that. This is not a plan that sits on a shelf. Our staff group uses it daily. The Planning Commission uses it every 2 weeks. I would say city council members use it also on a weekly basis. So it's not a matter of how much time that has gone by that we need to do the update, but also how much we've changed as a community, how much we've grown, how much we're projected to grow, how much the world has changed, technology has changed, neighborhoods are growing up in Rapid City quicker than ever, buildings are coming up downtown at an alarming pace. These are all good things. We want to stay ahead of development and be as proactive as possible. And I'll also add that we're not starting over with our vision for our city. We really want to build on what we already have from the 2014 plan. I think I'll close there and stay open for any comments you have. We're just really excited about the opportunity to bring this project forward. We can't understate the importance of this project, the need to do it now, and our confidence in working with Logan Simpson to make sure it's done correctly. And I'm available for any questions you have. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll go to Bill Evans.
I don't really have any questions for you, Sarah, but I'm going to make a motion to approve 11 through 13 and retain for some comments, if that's possible.
Okay, there's a motion by Evans and a second by Beaverdorf. All in
Okay.
favor? I'm just going to go ahead and take the vote, and you can make.
Sure, then I'll talk later.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I just want to comment that, nobody's been more critical about wasting money on unnecessary studies than I have over the last 4 years, if you've noticed. But this particular thing, a comprehensive plan for the city, it is your vision statement for what you want to be. And that's important. And all the things that we do up here on a weekly basis become kind of our mission statement to get there. One deals with the future, one deals with the present. So we have to be very clear in where we want to end up in 10 years or 50 years or 100 years. I don't believe we can entrust the goodwill of developers to lead us to that point, although sometimes they do. And you're certainly not going to have it happen. Happenstance isn't going to let us build a great city, the kind that we want to live in and grow our children in and everything else and retire in my case. So this is critically important that we go ahead and pass this, and I hope the full council will do that on Monday. And I was particularly impressed with this proposal that we're accepting because it includes a very holistic look at economic drivers and everything, in particular cultural things. It was pointed out last night, I know that Brooke was at the meeting as well, and I don't know if she caught this. Mr. Tribby over at Prairie Edge pointed out that the Powwow Week last year, in terms of the receipts for their business, surpassed the bike rally for the first time in the history of those events. Now that tells you something about how important arts are and culture is to this area. And if you look up the hill with two of the largest 5 sculptures on the planet, within 40, 50 miles of this town, and you realize when this became a destination, it was driven through arts and culture. So I was thrilled that this particular plan is going to address those things. I think it's a whole nother way of looking at the way this town can be marketed and its reputation be enhanced throughout the upcoming years. So thank you for doing this and finding these people to work with us over the next few years. Thank you. Okay,
I don't see anybody else in the queue, and so we'll move on. That's the end of the consent calendar. We'll move on to non-consent items 14 to 15. I'm going to open public comment on non-consent items 14 and 15. I have no speaker request forms. I'm going to close public comment. And with the first non-consent item is number 14 from the Finance Department, introduction and first reading of ordinance 6591 regarding supplemental appropriation number 4 for 2023. And we'll go to Director Ainsley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This supplemental is a fairly small one. Essentially, we are just making a few minor modifications in our CDBG program. We are changing some of our cost centers to have as some of the additional costs coming out of the federal grant side versus the general fund. In addition, the water expansion project, we are increasing that to cover some of the developer-related funds for the reserve feasibility study, and then also just changing our categorization of some of our capital outlay expenses that have gone on for the MRF site. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion by Segrist and second by Bieberdorf. All in favor? Motion carries. Next item is number 15 from Public Works. Acknowledge overview of the EPA mandated lead and copper rule and compliance with regards to the Rapid City water utility system. And Dale is going to be Deputy Director Hathi.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I find it unique that we were talking about the future, and I guess I'm going to continue on and introduce our Water Superintendent, Eric Boyda. Today, we are going to give another presentation to you. I do have another item to pass around, just like last time. But today, we're going to provide you an overview of the EPA mandated lead copper rule. The overall goal of this rule is to minimize the presence of lead in our drinking water, which is important. Eric will provide you with that information and how the city intends to comply with this process, and he will also be available for questions afterwards. Again, this is, I'm going to pass this around. This is a lead copper pipe, so you understand what we're talking about. Heavy, so be careful.
Mr. Chair, thank you for having me. I'm Eric Boyda, the Water Superintendent, and more specifically today, I'm going to be talking about the EPA mandated lead service line inventory, which is a component of the lead and copper rule revision. And so all water utilities that serve at least 25 people have to comply with this lead service line inventory nationwide. So I want to take a step back and just talk about lead generally. So lead's been a historically important metal for its characteristics. For one, it's malleable. It can be pounded out into sheets without cracking. It's ductile. It can be drawn out into thin strands. It's got a high density, as you guys can see, passing that around. It's very heavy for its size. It's has poor conductivity and low corrosion. And if you've ever been curious enough to wonder why PB is lead in the periodic table of elements, that's its Latin name. It's plumbum. And so you can see that our words for plumbing and plumber are derivatives of the Latin word for lead. So you can see how important lead was for plumbing. Although in ancient Roman times, plumber just worked with lead generally, so they might have used lead for roofing or other projects. Other things that lead has been used throughout history is for paint, ceramics, solder, gasoline additive, ammunition, cosmetics, and batteries. And batteries right now is about 90% of the current use of lead for production. And so we are aware of the health impacts of lead, and so there's been effort to reduce our exposures. This is just a couple of years of different efforts to reduce exposure of lead to people. In '73, there was a phase down of lead in motor vehicle gasoline. In '78 was a ban on lead paint in residential properties. '86 was the first lead-specific drinking water rule, which required lead-free solder, flux fittings, and pipes for drinking water purposes. In '91, lead shot was banned for waterfowl hunting. In '91, we also have the lead copper rule, which was the first drinking water rule that expanded monitoring requirements to the distribution and customer side. Everything else was monitored at the treatment, where we were putting water into the distribution system. Most shocking to me was a '95 was the lead solder and food can ban. In '96 was the final ban of all lead in motor vehicle gasoline. And then more recently, in 2020, we had the lead-free rule for pipes, fittings, fixtures, solder, and flux for drinking water. And so this was a further expansion of the '86 rule that further limited the amount of lead that was allowed in these different fittings. And then that leads us to our current rule, the lead copper rule revision in 2021. So the lead copper rule revision was a major overhaul, and it also includes an inventory of all service lines. And so this is an EPA and South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources mandate for all utilities serving at least 25 people. And so a service line, if you look at this figure provided, on the far left, we have our water main. That is the section of the water system that's maintained and operated by the water utility. Once we break off of that to serve a house, you have a smaller diameter pipe that goes into the house. So the section that we're concerned with is that section that is the homeowner maintained, bringing water from our water main into the house. The service line inventory has to be completed by October 16th of 2024. And this survey is going to happen through a mix of historic records, design standards, service line cards, staff inspections, and customer inspections. And so every single service line in Rapid City is going to have to be categorized into 4 different categories. Lead being the lead line that we passed around to you. Galvanized requiring replacement, that's any galvanized line that was downstream of lead. Unknown, meaning that records can't identify what material it is, and then non-lead. And we've determined in our inventory when we identify something as non-lead, if we know what the material is, we will include that in the inventory. So some of the service lines that we'll expect to see, the far left picture, that is a lead service line. So lead is a dull color, it can be scratched, and it's most easily identified by what's called a wiped joint. And that's that bulbous joint that you see as it attaches to that fitting. If you're wondering why there's such a concern about galvanized lines, here's some cross sections in the top right. Showing the insides of galvanized steel where you start getting rusting and you form these nodules. Those nodules can contain and concentrate lead, and then if you have a change in the system, whether a physical disturbance to the line or if you have a change that the water is more acidic, you can release all of that lead in one shot. Down on the bottom right, you see copper in addition to those other 2 lines. Copper is the material that we're likely most going to find throughout town. It's still an accepted material for service line, and it doesn't build up that deposit that you see in galvanized steel. So based on our population, the service line inventory has to be online for Rapid City. And so we're going to present this data through Rapid Maps or possibly develop a special GIS dashboard specific to lead. And then each year, letters to the properties that are identified with lead, galvanized requiring replacement, or unknowns will need to be sent out. And that has to go to the customers, the property owners and renters. And this will describe ways to pursue replacement or ways that they can mitigate the impacts of lead. And our first release is planned for March or April of next year. The next component that I wanted to discuss is the lead service line replacement plan. So we're obligated to create a replacement plan that has 3 different components. One is a goal for replacements if the system exceeds the trigger level. 2, a prioritization strategy based on factors including the known lead service lines, replacements for disadvantaged consumers, and the populations most sensitive to the effects of lead. And then a funding strategy to accommodate customers unable to pay to replace. So when we look at possible cost, right now we're estimating we have around 1,000 to 1,200 possible lead and galvanized requiring replacement. And so if we just put a ballpark figure of 6,500 to 7,500 for each service line, that's an estimated total of $6.5 million to $9 million for replacement. If we cross the trigger and health levels for lead, there would be an obligation to replace 3% per year. And so that would come to approximate cost of $234,000 to $270,000. So as you go through our codes, you see that the homeowner is responsible for the cost for installation, connection, and maintenance of water service lines. And so it might be prudent to consider establishing a policy to provide funding options for lead and galvanized replacements. There are several grants that are available for proactive replacements, including the state water revolving funds or a possible community development block grant. So Rapid City's current lead mitigation strategy, our current testing has lead at 2 parts per billionth for the 90th percentile. So the easiest way to explain the 90th percentile is if we took 10 samples for lead and you arranged them from lowest to highest, the 9th highest one would be the 90th percentile. And so these samples are only taken at locations that we know have lead. In the current and the proposed health levels are 10 parts per billion is the trigger level. That's where we'd have to start doing replacements. And then 15 parts per billion is the health level where we'd have to start modifying our treatment process. So we're well below the health standards for lead. The other thing is the city water has a naturally basic pH. It's higher than 7. And we have higher alkalinity, which is good for corrosion control. So when you look at the diagram on the right at this PowerPoint, what the alkalinity does is it basically deposits a coating on the inside of a lead line that stops the water from directly contacting the lead. So we're protecting, we're not constantly leaching that lead, it's protected with that alkalinity deposit. And then we don't allow any repairs or partial replacements for lead or galvanized lines, so we are losing these type of lines just through natural attrition. So if a customer does have a lead line or a galvanized requiring replacement, what can they do to reduce that or reduce the impacts of lead? One thing to recognize is that boiling water doesn't remove lead. The best thing is to flush out your water outlets used for drinking or food preparation. So at some houses that could take up to 5 minutes of allowing the sink to run. Cleaning out the outlet screens and aerators on a sink that you're drinking from on a regular basis. Only using cold water for drinking or cooking, so don't use water that's gone through a water heater tank. You can apply a ANSI 61 certified point of use filter that filters out lead. And then also eating a well-balanced nutritional meal minimizes absorption of lead. So lead mimics a lot of nutrients, including calcium, and your body will use lead in place of calcium if it doesn't have enough calcium. So our next steps, we're finalizing the format for the inventory data. Last week, Council, you approved a contract with consultant FMG. They're inputting our service card data into the database and having that specific format that's required by the state. We're going to start developing our communication strategy with customers impacted, determining what letters we're going to be preparing. And then we're reviewing the grant funding for a possible larger replacement project. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be open for any questions.
Thank you, Eric. We'll go to Bill Evans.
Yes, I have a question. Does the mitigation apply just to service lines or also to waste lines that are galvanized?
Mr. Chair, so we're only concerned about our the service lines themselves, so not the wastewater lines.
Okay, that's good to know, and because I know there's a lot of older houses in town that might have some chunks of waste lines also that are galvanized. A really bad idea. But I also want to comment, here's another example of we've got to be ahead of the game. We need to be planning because these mandates show up, and it's great to, again, I said last week, not be caught with our pants down, have the plan in effect, and be eligible for all this grant money that comes along so we can have help paying for this stuff. So thank you for your work on this. That was a very good presentation.
Go to Lindsay Segrist.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple questions as well. Thank you for the information. Great presentation. I was curious, will residents be mandated to replace their lead and galvanized steel lines once?
Mr. Chair, so the rule specifically doesn't mandate replacements for the homeowners, so we can't just pass it on to them to do the replacements.
Okay. I've heard of similar communities moving forward with this type of similar initiative and have had mandates on that. So I was curious. And then I know just personally, I have my homeowner's insurance covers water and sewer line replacement. And I was just curious if this is a service that would be covered under a standard insurance or home serve is what the city seems to promote. So to our residents as an opportunity to help mitigate some of those costs. So do you have any information on that?
I don't specifically, but I would imagine that this would be a existing condition and probably wouldn't be eligible for a reimbursement from an insurance company.
Okay, and then I guess my final question was, I know we focused a lot on the service line from the home to the curb stop, but is there also a concern on the city side for the utility line as far as the service being provided to the resident from the city's piece of that equation, I guess?
The water main.
The water main, yes.
So are we concerned about lead in our publicly owned infrastructure?
Yes, just what the city's ownership would be in the water main to the service line. Yeah, is that also an issue here?
So not in this specific rule, but the past rules have identified, so that's what the lead-free rule from 2020 that got rid of new lead components. So we are replacing lead through attrition. So whenever, for instance, a water meter, a lot of the brass fittings that would attach to a water meter, once you service that meter, you can't put them back on because they have a certain amount of lead. So we have to get rid of them and replace them with the low or lead-free components.
Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Any other comments from the council?
Move to acknowledge.
Motion by Evans, second by Bieberdorf to acknowledge the overview of the EPA mandate. All in favor? Motion carries. The last thing on the agenda today is alderman items, and I just wanted to bring up one thing that was introduced, we were informed of last week, is that Rapid Ride and the bus system was going to be taking comments at the Pumpkin Festival last week about their potential route changes and changes in the transit system, and they were seeking public input, and now they've also extended that to allow just the general public can go down to the transit center, the Milo Barber Center, and make their wishes known regarding how they'd like to see the transit routes revised. And I encourage people that are interested in that, especially people who use the Oyate facility or the Western Dakota Tech or the college campus, remote campuses here, to make sure that you get a chance to have your voice heard, because they're welcoming comments down at the transit center. And so I'd encourage people to go down there and do that. And I'll go to Mr. Evans.
And I, again, would like to just invite everybody to attend the powwow next week. If you've never been to it, it's an amazing thing to see. I mean, visually, it's stunning. It's getting to be one of the biggest events of its type anywhere in the world, frankly. And I think that that is another great feather in the cap for Rapid City, because it's really something that is worth experiencing. So please visit that. Thank you.
Nothing further. I'd entertain the chair to entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Seeker, second by Maher. All in favor? We're adjourned.